Welcome again, Dr. Lindsay. Good seeing you once again.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kofi. Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we're gonna jump into it. Today we're gonna be talking mostly about women and menopausal changes and management. A few questions I have for you. How do you define premenopause versus menopause, and why does that 12-month mark without a period matter so much?
So, quite an interesting process, right? So, what we see is those the perimenopausal years are the years when there's a transitioning, and during this period of time, what women experience are symptoms that vary, right? And a lot of times it's kind of going back and forth, just depending on where you are. The symptoms vary. You'll find that sometimes you get issues like the hot flashes, you get the agitation, you get the anxiety, but those women are still having a monthly cycle. What does take place though is that a lot of times the cycle is irregular. But a woman has to be very careful because during this particular time, she could potentially get pregnant. And so, as we think about care, we have to, for the perimenopausal areas, we think about it. Now, versus menopause is that point where that woman would have had 12 months when there is absolutely no monthly period. And that is the end of fertility for women. Right. And at this point, we have the estrogen and progesterone leveling off. Unlike during the testosterone levels, right? During perimenopause, they're fluctuating. But during those menopause years, it's leveling off, right? And a lot of times the symptoms could very well be determined, like I said, by where you are or how intense they are. So in a nutshell, basically, that is just where we are. We're during the perimenopausal year, we're transitioning, we're fluctuating in terms of hormonal levels, while after that 12 months, no fertility, that is literally a part of the chapter that has passed for a woman of that at that stage. And so again, it's the leveling off. The symptoms might continue, but there's a leveling off in terms of hormonal levels.
Yes, and there is various discussions on the typical age range for premenopause to begin. Can it start earlier for some women due to surgery or other genetics?
So yes, both factors, right? I have actually, it is well known that perimenopausal years could really run anywhere from those 35 to as well. The levels of hormones start dropping about 35, and we could see the perimenopausal years running from all the way in the 40s to the 50s, right? And with that, for some, it's genetic. You will find that some women will say, look, my mom went into menopause early, that type of thing. For some, if a woman has surgery to remove the uterus, right? If you have a hysterectomy, then you're automatically going to be thrust into menopause, right? But I will say this perimenopausal. And so it just depends on what is going on with that individual. We have to think of this whole, it's a progressive, and it's what I called, I say menopausal issues are basically physiologic, right, changes that takes place. So you could find that a woman could ride those wavelengths anywhere from the 30s all the way up. Actually, I had a patient I think last year, and she was 30 and she was full blown menopausal. So it just depends on what is going on with you. It might run in your family, that type of thing. Did you have a hysterectomy that would have triggered that the thus propelling you into menopause?
Oh, great. So many women want a blood test to confirm they are in menopause. Why is testing often unreliable? What do you look for instead?
So here's the thing, especially those perimenopausal years when the hormonal levels are fluctuating, having labs really does not have a lot of bearing, because one day you could find that the levels are this particular number, and then you repeat the lab next day and you find that it is a different number, right? So it's not really reliable, and a lot of times those numbers are kind of unrelated to the symptoms. So we kind of focus, as providers, we focus more on symptoms, in order for us to ascertain, what is going on, and kind of figure out how to navigate with the patient. So the labs are really sort of unreliable. Now, when you move on to the menopausal phase, what you will definitely see is that leveling off. So yes, the numbers might be a little more stable, and of course on the lower side of things.
Yeah, and you've touched on the symptoms, but beyond the hot flashes, are there others lesser known symptoms women are surprised to learn are related to hormones?
Yes, actually. So in terms of hormones, let us think about, as we think about, and I'm going to use the estrogen first, then I'll talk about testosterone and progesterone. So if we kind of think about the functions that they play, estrogen really, it affects estrogen. Let me say this. Estrogen affects every single body system that there is, right? And so as a woman loses as the estrogen level fluctuate or falls, you'll find that she will have issues like bone problems, right? We think about estrogen and the crucial function that it plays in bone, right? It helps with bones. It supports collagen and elastin. It helps to prevent things like vaginal dryness for a woman, right? And a lot of times we don't mention those things, because it's kind of in the know, which it should not be. But if you think about it, so it affects your skin, it affects your mental function, right? And if you think about testosterone, and I could just use those lighter ones, it's your mood. Progesterone, it's your mood, right? Progesterone is it kind of your circadian rhythm, which is your sleep rhythm, really rely a lot on your progesterone. And so you'll find that when your progesterone levels start fluctuating, you're losing sleep, right? Right? You're losing, so your anger, you tend to get anger spells, you tend to be, you're anxious, you're agitated, because you're not resting, you're having insomnia, and if you don't sleep, just think about it. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong with the fluctuating of the hormones, or like I said, just automatic dropping of the hormones. Because then again, like I said, if you think about all the things, just think about when I think of estrogen, I think lubrication as well, right? And you think about all the things that require lubrication in the body, not just the vaginal dryness for those sexual encounters, but think about your skin itself, right? Those are like basic things, and so you might find that you're just like your skin, you just doesn't have that glow that you typically have. Your body really rely on the support from those your estrogen, your testosterone, and your progesterone, your hormones. So therefore, a number of things. Like I said, when you think about the brain function, think about the brain function in its all essence, right? And every single one of those affects the brain function. So I'm using the estrogen, the testosterone, and the progesterone, right? They all affect the brain function, right? And so when you lose those, then you are exposed to not just the agitation, but you're, like I said, insomnia. You're moving into, the realms of anxiety, depression. So just we could go on. The fatigue, the muscle fatigue, because they also support the muscles. So there are myriad symptoms and varying symptoms, right? So everyone does not necessarily have the same symptoms. Others, you bet. I mean, some women have a certain subset of symptoms, another might have other symptoms, but there are myriad symptoms that could really take place with these levels fluctuating or leveling off.
Uh, there have to be some treatment and long-term solution. Who is a good candidate and who should avoid it?
Hormone replacement therapy. Ladies, let me say this, help arrived. It is amazing. It is amazing. Bioidentical hormone replacement therapy basically was developed and to basically assist women who are dealing with these issues. Now, who is a candidate? So let me first talk about who can benefit. As long as you're dealing with menopausal issues, you can benefit from it. Okay. For women who are in those fluctuating years, what we will look at is the more like conservative types of treatment. We will basically just kind of decide, okay, what symptoms are you having? How might we take care of those symptoms from an individual perspective? However, with women who have leveled off, we absolutely, like I said, are able to take care of you, providing we can pellet you. Like I said, we can provide other topical agents. It just depends on what you want, right? What are the things that who cannot have it? What are the things that we focus on? If you have a history of certain types of cancer, we really are very cautious. We want to ensure that we are literally getting your history. We need your medical history. We need your labs so we can look at it. If you are seeing specialists, we want to talk to your specialist to make sure. So let's say you have a history of cancer. We want to talk to your oncologist to make sure that this is right for you, because we know everything is not for everyone. So we want to make sure that we're giving you what is right for you. If we're looking at the bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, we might look at you and, hey, you qualify for this. Woman A might qualify for it, but woman B might not qualify for it. What can we do? Can we look at other solutions like topical agents and that type of thing, intravaginal vaginal agents? Those are things that we absolutely can look at to ensure that we're making sure that everybody, kind of, especially for the postmenopausal women, to kind of just get their lives back, so to speak.
Right. Right. So how should diet and exercise change during this phase to combat metabolic slowing or menopausal weight gain?
So one of the things that I say to women, the things that you do in your is and your is will emphatically not work for you in those mid to late 40s and 50s and beyond. It's not working, right? And so exercise regimen, I just explained in this conversation that estrogen supports things like the bone, every system, right? And so a lot of times I will use things like B12, right? I normally like to use B12. How many people know we need B12? But how many people know what foods we get B12 from, right? And so it's a matter of ensuring that we're tapping into ourselves, that we're focusing on the right foods to eat. We're focusing on, because we know things like B12 supports red blood cell production. Where does red blood cells are? Within the bone system, right? And so all these systems ties together. So therefore, we have to tap into an exercise regimen. How do we ensure that we are taking care of ourselves? We have to ensure that we're eating the right foods. We have to ensure that we are working out. We're getting up in the mornings and we're stretching those bones. We're working them. We are ensuring that we're including things like collagen in our diet, our collagen-rich type foods, right? We want to ensure that we are always trying to remain flexible. We want to move. We all know exercise play a crucial role. And so utilizing those means, I say self-care after 40, self-care for every woman should be paramount, because that is the only way we can escape with ensuring that we can live a healthy life after those perimenopausal and those menopausal years.
So talking about long-term risk, how does the loss of estrogen impact a woman's long-term risk for osteoporosis and heart diseases?
So again, estrogen supports everybody's system, right? And we are aware that after menopause, women are more likely to have a heart attack than men, right? Because estrogen helps to increase good cholesterol and reduce bad cholesterol, right? But with the lowering, the natural physiologic lowering of the estrogen, we are at risk for things like cardiovascular disease. Women, don't take it for a joke. It is an issue. Okay. Now, as it relates to the bones, again, collagen, the bones need collagen, right? During those fluctuating and tapering years of menopause, we are perimenopause into menopause, we find that we don't have enough estrogen in our body. So then we have to actually try to make sure that we are figuring out, hey, find out what is available to help you, because you want to ensure that you are not developing osteoporosis. So you want to get yourself checked. I was looking at a study not too long ago where the utilization of biohormone replacement therapy was actually helping people to reverse osteopenia, right? That was going to propel them to osteoporosis, and it helped them because, again, it's all those, the testosterone, the progesterone, and the estrogen, they help to support the bones. You want to try to get your information, do some self-care because it matters.
What will be your final message to women experiencing these changes?
I will say this: it's a natural occurring physiologic process, but there is so much deep-seated social stigma against talking about the effects of this process that women tend to suffer in silence. If you are that woman who is suffering in silence today, I want to extend, myself to you to have a conversation with you. Listen up. You don't have to continue to suffer in silence because help has arrived. Understanding your body and how to navigate in terms of eating better, eating foods that will support your testosterone, your estrogen, whether it's your bone, your mentation, finding methods that will help you to really increase those levels. It's pretty safe. It's safe. It's effective. You're talking to someone who's experienced it. When I tell you it works, you really want to minimize the risk of heart disease. You want to minimize the risk of getting osteoporosis. You want to minimize the risk of dealing with anxiety. You really want to minimize the risk of insomnia. There's an answer to all of those issues. And I just named 4 right there, or 5. There's an answer to all of those. The chronic fatigue, there's an answer to that, okay? Hormone replacement therapy, eating the right foods, get your energy up. What you want to do is focus on maintenance. At this stage of our lives, you focus on maintenance because maintenance really matters. Maintenance is what's going to get you through these challenging years. It doesn't have to remain shrouded in secrecy, and we don't have to remain in the know. What we should do is begin to get out there, talk to each other, empower each other, support each other. If you know something about it, you share, and each one help one. Because again, if you plan to live a successful, long, and healthy life, you have to do your research. You have to look at what's right for you. After you get to the age of 40 and beyond, you really need to put in the extra work as it relates to self-care.
Thank you, Dr. Nadine.
You are so welcome. Thank you so much, Kofi.